For more on this, we're now joined by Andrew Ingram from the National Sea Rescue Institute, and he is the spokesperson. He joins us via our video link. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Perhaps let's start off with that alert, which has been released by the NSRI. And how strong will these rip currents be? And basically, sending out this warning to the bathers who will be at beaches this weekend.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us and for highlighting the issue of rip currents. I think it's extremely useful as this is really the first weekend of our summer holidays and people will be flocking to the beaches. I think that people should be reminded that the most dangerous thing that they're going to face when going to the beach are rip currents, and that many people are unable to recognize rip currents. So the best way of dealing with this is to choose a beach where lifeguards are on duty and swim between their flags. The lifeguards will keep you safe and you don't need to worry about not being able to see rip currents and possibly getting into trouble. Should somebody land up in a rip current at an unguarded beach, the most important thing that you could do is to not panic. Flip onto your back, float, stay calm, and move at 90 degrees, swim out of the rip current, and then use the waves to get back to shore. I think that the other thing that we would really ask parents to do is to pay attention to children. Drowning is silent, and unless you're watching your children, you won't know if they're in difficulty. And of course, probably point number one is that if you drink alcohol and swim, your senses will be impaired and you will put yourself and those who you're looking after at great danger. So please don't drink and then go and swim.
And how does someone actually even identify a rip current? Because, I mean, someone would just say maybe these are just normal waves we are seeing at the beach.
Yeah, rip currents are really for lifeguards and for people who know the ocean and know the beach. It's very, very easy to see. But our experience is that mostly people find it very, very hard to spot a rip current. So what a rip current is it's like a river of water that flows from the beach to where the waves are forming. We call the back line. And if you're paying attention, you can see difference in the color of the water. It's a slightly darker color. You can see bubbles and some debris being pulled out to sea. And yeah, as I say, for lifeguards and for sea rescue volunteers, they stand out in neon lights, but really most people can't see them. So if you pop on the Sea Rescue website and you put rip currents into the search field, you'll be able to see a whole pile of videos that show you exactly what they're like with explanations. But honestly, the safest thing to do is to choose a beach where lifeguards on duty, swim between their flags, stay safe, and please remind each other not to drink alcohol and then go into the water.
Andrew, what causes, these rip currents? I mean, we are told by, our reporter covering the story that it is indeed because of a new moon spring tide. And, one would ask, how often do we actually get these rip currents?
So rip currents are always around the South African shore, depending where you are, on which beach and what the bottom structure is, how big the waves are. All of these things have an impact on rip currents. What causes them is, if you think of the waves coming into a beach, one wave comes up behind another wave, and so the water builds up, and that water building up on the beach needs to get back out to the ocean somehow. So it moves along the front of the beach. Some people would call that a side wash, and you can feel that water going parallel along the front of the beach. And suddenly it will find a place where it's able to go back out to sea and back out to the back line. And that will form a rip current. So it's like a narrow channel of water that flows very quickly from the beach out to sea. There's a whole series of things that involve the rip current forming, how strongly it flows, etc. And some rip currents are always in the same place. So in a bay, a narrow bay, a small bay, you will most likely have rip currents on either side. And on some beaches, the rip currents are in the same place. Sometimes they move up and down a beach, and sometimes they form out of nowhere. You can be standing in a place where you think is completely safe. There's no currents around, and suddenly you have what we call as a flash rip current. And so unless you truly understand the ocean and you understand what you're looking at and what is happening, it really is a very, very difficult thing for most people to see.
Which provinces will be affected by this rip current this weekend?
So right the way around the coast, I think that we need to be alert wherever we are going down to the beaches. I think that history shows us that probably the most dangerous beaches from the Garden Route all the way up into KZN. And traditionally, all of those beaches on the East Coast have very strong rip currents. But that doesn't mean to say that there's none on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think be careful, have lots of fun, choose a beach where there are lifeguards on duty, pop onto the NSRI website and have a look at our rip current videos. There's fantastic educational material there that adults can use to teach themselves and their children about rip currents and how to spot them.
And how long are they expected to last this weekend?
They'll go right through the weekend and into next week. So it really just depends on the beach and the type of beach it is and how big the waves are. So I think that rip currents are something that we should always be very aware of when we go to the beach. And after this weekend, it doesn't mean that the rip currents are going to go away. They're going to still be there. They might not be as strong one day to the next day, but that depends entirely on how big the waves are, the period of the waves, how long one wave is behind another wave, and the bottom structure. So this weekend, please be very careful, but next weekend, don't relax.
All right, then, Andrew, thank you so much for that very educational insight when it comes to rip currents. And of course, this will be along the coastline. And of course, saying that, warning those bathers that will be making their way to beaches in South Africa to be careful. And of course, always swim where there are lifeguards.